360 Communities delivers safety and stability that improves lives. We've been doing this for over 50 years, one relationship at a time. Our free programs prevent homelessness, address hunger, boost high school graduation rates, and foster healthy relationships. We are the only provider in Dakota County offering safe shelter and services for victims of domestic and sexual violence. Get help or give help today. Make a meaningful difference for yourself and your community. 360 Communities. Help in the moment, hope for the future.
Hello everyone. My name is Lisa Lusk. I'm the Director of Programs and Operations at 360 Communities. On behalf of myself and everyone at 360 Communities, we welcome you to our 37th annual Domestic and Sexual Violence Awareness Luncheon. Jeff Mortensen asked me to greet you all and send his thanks for being here. His daughter is studying abroad this semester and they had the opportunity to be with her in Italy this week. So he sends his greetings from there. 360 Communities is a large nonprofit supporting 15,000 individuals each year in Dakota County. We support victims of domestic and sexual violence, children and their families from birth through high school graduation, and we support individuals in need of food, financial assistance, and resource navigation. Our 90 staff and 1,000 volunteers are co-located in over 45 locations across the county. Those include 2 Lewis House shelters, 10 police departments, 28 schools, 2 resource centers, and 5 food shelves. Our mission is to deliver safety and stability that improves lives. We do this by providing holistic support through integrated programs that are uniquely tailored to each individual's situation using a multi-generational approach. Providing stability for at-risk households and preventing homelessness are impact areas that 360 Communities is working hard to grow through various partnerships with Dakota County, Community Development Agency, courts and law enforcement, and school districts. Today we will spend our time together learning more about the intersection of housing, homelessness, as it relates to victim survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Today we are fortunate to have Senator Amy Klobuchar here with us. Senator Klobuchar is the first woman elected to represent the state of Minnesota in the United States Senate. She has been a steadfast supporter of violence prevention and intervention legislation. I'd like to welcome her to the stage to share some remarks.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, and it's so great to be here actually in person. I've done a lot of videos for this event. I actually exist, I want you to know. I have a funny with one of our representatives, Tom Emmer, who's not in your district, but somewhere else. Whenever he's at an event and I do a video, he always sends me a picture of it and says, "I'm really here." Or when I'm at an event and he does a video, we do the same thing. This has sadly been going on for a decade. But I want to thank all of you with 360 Communities for being such a force in the fight to end domestic and sexual violence. Because of your leadership and the leadership of so many others, 360 Communities was able to assist, and I think you know these are numbers, but behind every number is a person, is a family. 22,000 families in Dakota County in 2022 alone. So thank you for that. I thank the elected leaders for their support. Mary Liz, thank you. Mary Liz Holberg, Dakota County Commissioner. Bill Drosty, thank you. We've been working with Dakota County on a bunch of infrastructure projects as well that are very, very important. Dakota County Sheriff Joe Lico, we were just with you and your county attorney, Kathy Keena, yesterday with Congresswoman Craig on focused on fentanyl and the great work the county sheriff's office is doing, as well as the police department on interdiction. We also know that there's a prevention side. There is also, of course, an education side of our students that are ordering these pills online, not even knowing what they're getting. And there's just so much more work that needs to be done. And my focus has been stopping it from coming through the mail and our borders, and we have a lot more work to do. So that's what we were talking about. I know there's a bunch of police chiefs out there, including Burnsville Police Chief Tanya Schwartz, Lakeville Police Chief Brad Paulson, thank you, as well as a number of other electeds from Lakeville and also other police departments. I always like to mention them. You do such good work every single day. I lead with Apple Valley because that's where my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live, and I want to put a good word in for them so they don't get in trouble. They're very law-abiding citizens. Lived there a long time, just so you know. South St. Paul, Lakeville that I mentioned, Hastings, Savage, Egan, Farmington, West St. Paul, Burnsville. Did I forget anyone? I hope not. Roseville. Rosemont, very good, Rosemont. Well, thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you so much for your work. So I have been involved in domestic violence prosecutions prevention for quite a while, starting with when I was Hennepin County Attorney. And I actually had a picture up outside my door that everyone saw when they came in. And it was a picture of a mom holding a baby with Band-Aids over her nose. And it said, beat up your wife, and it's your kid that's going to end up in jail. And our focus there, in a very hard-hitting way, was on the cyclical nature of domestic violence and how it doesn't just hit the immediate and obvious victim, but it hits the whole family if you just let it go and pretend that it's not happening. It's the reason that law enforcement, that we've done so much with the Violence Against Women Act, which I'm a strong proponent of, why we update it every few years to get at things like internet and stalking and other things, because we understand it's not just one victim, it's everyone. I'll never forget the most notable thing for me was the Lake City case. After I was county attorney, I'm in the Senate, and I later met the family, and this was a case where a police officer actually had gone to a call of domestic violence, a young couple, and he was deranged basically, had a gun, police officer has a bulletproof vest on, not enough, the guy shoots him in the head, he dies. And I was at that funeral, and what I will never forget is walking in and seeing that family, and then later hearing the story of how this mom and her 3 young kids, including a baby, had been with their dad, her husband, just 10 days before at Christmas for the nativity play. And they sat right in the front row, and 2 of the kids were in the play. And then there they are, 2 weeks later, with the mom walking with this little baby with this Blue Star dress on to the same seats where their dad had sat, and it was his funeral. That makes it bring home to everyone that domestic violence is not just about one victim, as bad as it is a family, it is a community, it is the police officers. And that's why I'm so devoted to continuing to take this on and to never pretend that it's just behind closed doors. Right now, in our country, approximately 20 people are physically abused by an intimate partner every minute. That's equivalent of about 28,000 victims a day. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced some kind of intimate partner violence in their life. So as Lisa just emphasized, I know you're going to be talking about the link between homelessness and domestic violence. I think we have a huge problem in our country with affordable housing. Some of it's obvious. Price of land has gone up, rentals have gone up, and the like. And it actually is hurting our economy, especially in greater Minnesota, if we don't have that housing. If we have companies that want to hire, we don't have the housing. And then, of course, as it filters down, it's really hard for people that are the most vulnerable in our society, which, of course, is people that are low-income, people who are victims and the like. And I want to expand the National Housing Trust Fund and get housing choice vouchers out there. There are things we could do federally that I think could be really, really helpful. The other thing we can do is look at immigrant victims of domestic violence. That's a big part of VAWA, and it's also a big part of what we should be doing with immigration reform. I remember when I was county attorney, we would have a number of cases of young immigrant victims, 13, 14, these were usually sexual assault cases, right? Where the guy knew very well that he could prey on them because they were afraid to come forward, or their moms were afraid to come forward to talk about what was happening. And that's why we have some special visas and the like for those victims, and we have to make sure make sure that continues and is a part of our work on immigration reform. I mentioned some of the updates we've made with violence against women. One of them was based on a case out of Minnesota, the Abby Hunold Act, not out of this county, but out of Minnesota. Tom Emmer actually did that bill with me in the House, and it helped with training. Senator Cornyn was my co-sponsor, and it was named in honor of Abby Hunold, who's a domestic sexual assault survivor in Minnesota. And it's allowing departments to receive more training on interviews for sexual assault and the like. Another update, because every year I try to give you guys updates. Now I can be in person, so I know you're not eating your lunch while I'm on the video. The other update is something I've been working on for a long time, and that's closing the boyfriend loophole. We already have done that in Minnesota, thanks to our legislature, but nationally there were a whole bunch of states where you literally could be, I'm not talking about protective orders, you could be convicted of domestic violence one day and go out and get a gun the next day. And it was only about half the states, and there was a clear correlation and evidence we were able to show, including with some pretty conservative sheriffs out of states like Wisconsin when we had the hearing. We were able to show the connection that this isn't just some made-up thing, that this is, you've got to be careful if someone's just been convicted of domestic violence and then they go out and get a gun. And we were able to show that jurisdictions like Minnesota and other states that closed that loophole. It applied under federal law only to people who were married or had a kid together. But if they'd been dating partners or together for a long time, they didn't count. And you could see the states that had closed the loopholes and the states that hadn't, with the difference between the homicide rates involving boyfriends. So we were able to bring that evidence forward, and when the negotiations started this summer after the massive tragedies in Uvalde, Texas, and in Buffalo, and there was bipartisan negotiations, I was able to bring our bill to Senator Cornyn and Senator Murphy, who were leading those negotiations, and get it to be part of that. So that was actually one of the bigger things that we got done in that bill, and as you know from what we've, sad things we've just seen in Kentucky and in Nashville, that our work is not done in that area. But putting that domestic violence provision, which we weren't able to get done in the Violence Against Women reauthorization, was really, really important for our country. And I'm proud to say we finally have gotten that done. Now, there's some court cases winding through. There's some court cases winding through that I think are going to be difficult on this front with the guns and domestic violence, that we are may have to do more in this area. Last thing I wanted to mention was online exploitation of private images. I think you know, and I know our law enforcement is involved in what's going to happen with AI, with artificial intelligence, and we have worked really hard to protect people from getting their images out there, whether it's child porn, which we've actually upped the ability to finally sue. You can sue the social media companies if they put these pictures out there of child trafficking and the like. It's the only thing you can sue them on in the whole country. I would expand that and have a few more things in there because I don't think they are responsible enough. And the AI is going to make it even harder to be able to limit what is going on the internet. So we cannot let AI just sit out there and have no rules of the game. That's why you're hearing some people talk about a pause. That's why you're hearing people say we have to have things in place. Otherwise, you're going to see images that are maybe made up images, but they're child porn nevertheless. Or you're going to see people in videos that really didn't do what is in the video, but it looks like they did it. And it's a really scary part of AI, and it's scary for law enforcement as well. So that is got to be one of our focuses as we move forward. So I just want to end by thanking you. So much of the work that you do, whether it's in the nonprofit side of this or whether it is in the law enforcement side of it, people don't always realize what you do, and so many times the people you help may not even know your name. To me, you are truly the guardian angels, not just for the immediate cases or clients or people you're talking to that are in front of you, but it's for going forward, that you are saving lives, that you're making people know that there's a safe place to go, that someone that has their back, someone that cares about them. And at a time when we have such a breakdown in trust in our country that I think is getting a little better, it's sunny outside, people are going, the Twins beat the Yankees. I'm like, come on, you guys, in one inning. So I really do leave on a note of optimism, because I feel like we have been through a really dark time through that pandemic with, you know, people in 300 million silos on their computers all the time by themselves, spewing angry stuff because you get mad and people are frustrated. And now we're back, and we're back in a big way at this lunch. And we've got to use that moment to reach out to people that maybe we don't agree with on everything, and we got to reach out to and lend a helping hand to people when they need it. And I know you get that, or you wouldn't be here. But I think you should feel good about that, and we should use that as an opportunity to advance our cause here and get more people involved, and then maybe go out and sit in the sun before it snows this weekend. All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Today we want to shed light on the issue of housing and homelessness as it relates to victim survivors of domestic and sexual violence. In order to do that, I want to first set the stage and share with you some general facts and information related to housing and homelessness. Housing instability and homelessness are significant and growing issues in Dakota County that intersect with all of our program areas at 360 Communities. There are a total of about 161,000 households in Dakota County. They can be divided into 3 categories: stable households, at-risk households, and chronically homeless. At this very moment in Dakota County, there are more than 300 people who are chronically homeless, meaning that they're living in situations not meant for human habitation. This number does not include individuals and families who are doubled up or living in hotels. Homelessness exists in every county, or every city in Dakota County, and the problem is growing. 360 Communities' focus is on stabilizing the at-risk households and preventing people from becoming homeless. Much of our work related to housing involves supporting people to move from the at-risk into stable category. Let's dive more deeply into at-risk households. These are people who have unstable housing or are facing homelessness. There are 2 categories of at-risk households that I'd like to talk about today: people who have financial hardships and people who are experiencing domestic violence. We know that families often fall into both of these categories. People experiencing financial hardships are at greater risk of unstable housing and homelessness. There are 38,000 households in Dakota County, or almost 2 out of every 8, that are cost burdened. That means they're paying more than 30% of their income toward their housing. 14,000 households are severely cost burdened, which means they're paying more than 50% of their income towards housing. Last year, 360 Communities supported just over 6,400 households across all of our program areas. 98% were at or below 200% of poverty. That means an annual income of $55,500 or less for a family of 4. With the recent inflation, 11% on food, 20% on energy, this creates a painful trade-off for these households that often leads to housing instability. As an organization, we've experienced increased demand for housing-related services, including financial assistance, support and eviction courts, and people using our food shelves to augment budgets to maintain housing. The second category of at-risk households is those experiencing domestic violence. We know that domestic violence is a leading cause of homelessness among women, and lack of affordable housing is a barrier. Victims are often hesitant to leave their abuser for fear of becoming homeless. Domestic violence has no socioeconomic boundaries and is highly prevalent. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 7 men in Minnesota are likely to experience domestic violence. We know these numbers are most often higher than that because it's an underrepresented issue. In 2022, 23 people in Minnesota were murdered as a result of domestic violence. So far in 2023, 8 people have lost their lives due to domestic violence, the 8th victim's life being taken just this week. As we examine the intersection of domestic violence and homelessness, we know that nearly 6 in 10 homeless adults have experienced domestic violence. We also know that marginalized communities, including people of color and individuals who are part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community, experience violence at higher rates. Domestic abusers commonly sabotage a victim's economic stability, making victims more vulnerable to homelessness. We know that nearly 1/3 of women in Minnesota who are experiencing homelessness became homeless, at least in part, due to domestic violence. And more than 90% of homeless women experience physical or sexual violence. These statistics are scary. At-risk households, including those where domestic violence is occurring, often go unnoticed to the general public. However, this is a real and serious issue, not only in Dakota County, but across the state and across the nation.
My name is Ann Averill, and I'm the Violence Prevention and Intervention Program Manager at 360 Communities. My role is to oversee all of the components of that program, which include the Lewis House, our community advocacy, sexual assault services, and community education. And so I want to start, I'm going to just kind of do a little brief information to you all about what we're seeing here. And so we've learned about a lot of kind of what's happening on a bigger picture, and I just want to share with you what we're seeing in our program. And I want to start with showing you this visual, and I fully recognize you can't read all the details, and that's okay. This was a graphic that was designed by Praxis International, which is a national technical assistance training provider for victim services across the nation. And the point behind this is kind of all of these different paths that a victim survivor needs to go through when they're fleeing an abusive situation. And I think it does a really nice job of kind of putting in perspective a lot of the things that Stephanie talked about and that Lisa talked about. And each color on this path represents a different system. So you can see child protection, there's housing, there's civil court, criminal court, and just a really kind of a lot. And at the center of this is a victim survivor, having to navigate all of this stuff, which can often happen all at the same time. And this visual also does not include other things like accessing children's needs, financial resources, employment, medical or mental health services, and anything else that they might need or want to work through. And so I just kind of like to leave that up there because it really, I think, does a nice job of showing the extent of the effects that domestic violence has. So today we're talking about the intersection of domestic violence, housing, and homelessness. And here at 360 Communities, in our Violence Prevention and Intervention Program, we serve 2,500 to 3,000 people per year. Advocates are working hard every day to provide support and resources and help navigate all of these systems that we just saw, and helping people with whatever goals they have to move forward. And we see housing needs across every part of our program. We have a 24-hour crisis line. Each year we get over 500 phone calls to that line. Most of them are people who are seeking shelter, who need somewhere to go. We have community advocates who are often the link that survivors need to make that phone call for shelter or to walk through the door at shelter. We have advocates in hospitals who connect sexual assault victims with shelter after an assault. We can help with financial assistance. We can help with legal advocacy and help with protective orders so people can stay in their homes safely, and a wide variety of other things just to help people kind of get or maintain housing, because we know that it's a foundation to safety and stability. So today I just want to talk a little bit about Lewis House. That's where we're seeing most of the housing needs within our program. And before I do that, I just want everybody for a moment to just think about, if you had to leave your home today, you have a limited time to figure out what's important for you to take, but it can only fit in 2 bags. You don't really know where you're gonna go. You have to make a million phone calls to try to find somewhere safe. You end up living in a room maybe the size of your bedroom with all of your things and your 3 kids. You are in a space that you are not familiar with. You are living with people who you don't know and have a lot of unknowns running through your head. Where am I gonna go from here? You know, how will I get income? Are we safe here? Who are all of these people around me? Can I trust the people who say they're gonna help me? And a lot of other things. And so I just like to say that because that's really what it's like for someone to leave their home and flee an abusive situation and live and come to a shelter. And we see about 500 people per year at Lewis House. The majority of people that we're serving in shelter, nearly 70%, are people who identify with a community of color, and over 1/3 come from the Black or African American community alone. We also know that over half of the people staying in our shelter are children under the age of 18. And so knowing the demographics helps us know how to best serve people. We know we can be trauma responsive, we can be culturally responsive, knowing who we're serving and making sure that people can get the help that they need. We have an average length of stay of 35 to 45 days. Some people stay for just a couple of days, some people stay a lot longer than that. But we have seen an increase in the average length of stay because of the lack of available and affordable housing in our community. Often people leave Lewis House after we've met their immediate safety needs. Some do get their own home. Some stay with friends or family, some stay in a hotel, some go to another shelter, some might live in their car, as Stephanie mentioned, often delaying the process of them and their ability to move forward. Part of what we do is help people establish goals and help support them through navigating whatever it is they need to do to achieve their goals. And last year, the top goals that we saw from people who were staying at Lewis House were housing, safety, and financial stability. And nearly 80% of the people we worked with achieved those goals during their stay. We also provide referrals because of all of the connections and partnerships that we have with many of you who are here today. And the top referrals that we provided were financial resources and housing support. And individuals started utilizing 80% of those referrals. So we're feeling good about that. We know that there's still a lot of work to do, but we know that the help that we're providing is getting people to move forward, even if it's just a little bit sometimes. Financial assistance is another critical piece that we can help to provide people with assistance with expenses related to housing. This is help that we provide all across 360 communities, so in our resource centers and school-based programs. And last year we helped 75% of the financial assistance we provided was to help with rent alone. And that was up from 47% the year before. So we are definitely seeing the need increase. Also, the costs are increasing. And we're also helping people get IDs and birth certificates and other documentation that they need then in order to get the housing. So we're really trying to provide a holistic approach and help with whatever we can so that people can get that. So I hope that today you all take away a new perspective. I was thinking on my way here that if everybody here told one person something that they learned, and then that person told somebody something that they learned, how many people would know more about this? So that's my challenge to you. And we're here, 360 Communities is committed to continuing to support people and do what we can to help people work through this issue. So thank you all for being here. Okay, now we have Community Caring Awards that we do every year, so I'm gonna shift gears and go into that. So one of the things, I've been at 360 Communities for a while, and one of the things that I've learned is that we all can do really great things when we do it together. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of the program, is to be able to help acknowledge people who are kind of going above and beyond and really dedicated to helping us with our mission to support people. So every year we have 3 categories of awards. So we have a volunteerism award, intervention, and then prevention. And we ask our staff for nominations for these awards, and then we have a committee that kind of decides based on the nomination who will receive the award. And that's the hardest part, because there's a lot of nominations, a lot of really great people, and we can only pick one. So first I'm gonna start with the volunteering award. And for each award, I'll just read a little bit about what it is that we're looking for and what the award is. And then I'll be inviting up the person who submitted the nomination to read that and present the award. So for volunteering, our work is not something that can be done alone, and our services are made possible by those who donate their time to the prevention and intervention of domestic and sexual violence. We have volunteers who assist within our program with advocacy and shelter, in the courtroom, in hospitals, helping us with support groups, helping to play with kids, and general operation of the Lewis House. And so now I would like to welcome Leah Lalick, who is our Family Youth Advocate at Lewis House, to read her nomination for the Volunteer Award.
So my nomination was Rich Wirt. Can you hear? I'm really short. Oh, hello. Thank you. My nomination is Rich Wirt, who has been with 360 Communities since 2007. I think I was graduating high school that year. Okay, it's totally not true. All right. During his time, he has made a huge impact on the Lewis House and resource centers and everywhere else that you have worked. The last few years, he has started helping out the 2 Lewis houses in Hastings and Egan. He helped with a variety of projects. Sometimes he's there to patch holes in the walls, painting, or hanging a curtain rod. Why is a curtain rod important? Well, helps so that they can't see inside the house, and it's super important. We are grateful for all the help that he does with these projects. When trying to come up with words to describe how wonderful Rich is, I asked some other staff members what they had to say. So here are a few things, staff feedback. Rich is so wonderful. He shows compassion. He is always in a positive mood and willing to help. He cares for staff and is always checking in with staff about how they are doing. The families enjoy him while he is there. He is always willing to go the extra mile. I appreciate him. He has learned my sense of humor and knows how to give me heck right back. He is a mentor to his own grandson, who he brings to the shelter with him to help fix things. The kids are always so curious as to what he is doing and wanting to help him. Another staff said, the kids that have seen him before run to him when he comes and are so excited to see what he is up to at shelter. He truly helps keep the shelter running safely and smoothly. He may think the projects he does are no big deal, but to Vicky, our supervisor, personally saves her a lot of stress. He brings so much joy when he is around. Richard and his wife bring goodie bags to the families and the kids at the shelter. And also, I believe your daughters also donated some items to the shelter. There was a thing here about the long list that would take me forever to list what you do at the shelter. And we really appreciate you, Rich, and you deserve this award.
Thank you, Leah, and congratulations, Rich, and thank you for all you do. Our next award is in the intervention category. Intervention is action that is taken to offer support, resources, and access to justice that meets the expressed needs and desires of victim survivors of domestic and sexual violence. Intervention is demonstrated through how we interact with and empower those around us, pushing hard for what is right and just, and advocating for those who have been impacted by violence. And now I will welcome Molly Sela, who is one of our community advocacy supervisors, to read the nomination and present the intervention award.
Hello, everyone. A couple of us came together to put together this nomination. I just get to read it. For over 15 years, Kelly Nicholson has worked for the Dakota County Attorney's Office and their Victim Witness Office. During those 15 years, Kelly has worked with and supported countless victim survivors as they have navigated the criminal justice system. The criminal justice system is a system that can be confusing, exhausting, frustrating, and emotionally taxing. It's also a system that can make someone feel unseen and unheard. But for more than 15 years, Kelly has been allowing victim survivors to not only interact with the system, but also be seen and heard while they do. Kelly has provided encouragement, reassurance, recognition, empathy, and respect to the people she has worked with. For many, she has served as a source of valuable information, a sounding board for every emotion imaginable, and for some, the only person they can lean on. She has advocated for justice for the people she has worked with and ensured that their voices have been heard in both plea deals and sentencings. In addition to the work that Kelly has done with victim survivors of crime, she has also been significant support and allies for other professionals who do the work. Kelly has helped foster a strong partnership between the victim witness staff that she supervises and our program, and particularly our community advocacy staff. This partnership has allowed both of our staff to be able to provide more holistic support to survivors in Dakota County. But Kelly's work has not stopped there. She has made herself available as a resource to professionals across the state of Minnesota. She has worked with coalitions such as Violence Free Minnesota, as well as the Minnesota Alliance on Crime, to help increase the support of victim survivors and the knowledge of the professionals who work with them. Kelly has presented at statewide trainings such as the Office of Justice Program's Minnesota Victim Assistance Academy, and at local trainings such as our own 40-hour training for sexual assault advocacy. To make an impact in one victim survivor's life is worth celebrating, and Kelly has done that hundreds of times over. She is treated those she has served with dignity and respect. She has served as an example for all around her as to what it means to support and advocate for victim survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and she has increased the access to justice and support through the education she has done with professionals throughout Minnesota. Thank you, Kelly.
All right, so last we have our prevention award. The goal of prevention is to stop violence from happening and to empower individuals to take a stand against domestic and sexual violence through education and awareness. To ensure that members of our community are able to live free from violence, it requires individuals, families, communities, and organizations. And now I will welcome Tony Compton, who is our Director of Marketing and Communications, to read the nomination and present the Prevention Award.
Hello, everyone. So domestic and sexual violence prevention, it takes an entire community, and it takes people outside of this room, outside of the work, to step up as allies. And our next honoree did that many years ago, and he hasn't looked back. Jim Schiffman is a video production specialist for the city of Lakeville, who has spent the last 3 decades documenting stories and events that make up the vibrant fabric of this community. Some of you might know Jim, some of you might cross paths with him over the years, and I bet you've noticed some of the same things about him that I have. He's one of the most approachable people I've ever met. He's highly skilled, creative, collegial, collaborative, generous, and prolific. Fun fact about Jim, over his career, he has filmed more than 800 city council meetings, planning commission meetings, and other city events. And that's on top of all the public service announcements, community stories, and other content he's produced. Wow. Quietly behind the scenes, documenting the history of a community. And you might think that someone with his talent and his experience would have a big head about it. But not Jim. He's unassuming. He lets his body of work speak for itself. Jim Schiffman is a humble, humble guy. During the week, during the work week. On the weekends, it's all suits and Emmys. But just 2 at a time, because everybody knows 3's just too much, right? You only got 2 arms. Kidding aside, he's a great human being, and he's also award-winning. So how lucky were we at 360 Communities when Lakeville Police introduced Jim to our work and this event 25 years ago. He came and filmed it for the first time then, and every year since, he and his team have been here to capture the event, produce a beautiful video, and broadcast our message to the world outside this room. And he does it with a keen awareness and sensitivity to victim survivors' safety and privacy. Jim, that's a huge lift for us. But wait, there's more. Over the years, in partnership with Lakeville Police and 360 Communities, Jim has produced stories, public service announcements to raise awareness about domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. His puppet PSAs taught children about healthy relationships, boundaries, safety, trust. His video about Lewis House's 30th anniversary earned the well-deserved Emmy Awards you saw earlier. It even earned 360 Communities an Emmy. So thanks, Jim. That rounds out the trophy case. He also would take any content I sent him, video content, and broadcast it out to the world about all of our work, spreading our message and mission to more people. Jim retires in July after 33 years, and he is leaving quite a legacy. Jim, you stepped in with your storytelling skills and connected people with our services and mission. You helped save lives and create a safe community. Thank you, Jim, for the care you've shown your community. Thank you for your partnership over the years. And thank you for your commitment to violence prevention. On behalf of 360 Communities, I'm proud to present you with a Community Caring Award. Oh. I'm used to taking the picture. I know, I'm doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone who submitted nominations, who came up here and read this. Thank you to all of you. And just one last congratulations to all of the winners. And I will turn it over to Lisa to close us out for the day.
Thank you again to our sponsors, to our speaker, and to all of you who took the time to be here with us today. Together, I do believe that we could make an impact on this important issue being faced in our community. Just a couple quick reminders. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. If you don't already, please follow us on social media, share our posts so that your networks can learn more. And on your table, there's some information about our Lewis House Golf Tournament. That's taking place on Monday, April 7th. We would invite you all to join us here at Brackett's Crossing. Thank you again for joining us today, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.